The grand hall of the downtown art gallery was awash in cool white light as Amara adjusted her emerald green gown for the 100th time. Across the room, Rico stood by a cluster of admirers, his tailored tuxedo immaculate, his smile a practiced arc of confidence. Amara's heart fluttered with anticipation. Tonight was supposed to be the announcement of their engagement, a moment she'd dreamed of since they first met under a rain-slicked billboard ad 4 years ago. She crossed the polished marble floor, heels clicking in measured rhythm, and met Rico's gaze. His lips curved into what should have been a loving smile, but behind his eyes lurked something else. Before she could speak, a shout rang out from the entrance, "Congratulations, Rico and Zara!" Zara emerged, radiant in a champagne-colored slip dress, clinking champagne flute in hand. Her smile was too bright, her steps too sure as she slid into Rico's side. Amara froze. Rico's eyes darted hesitantly to Zara, then back to Amara. "Amara," he said, voice tight. "You're just in time." He slipped his arm around Zara's waist. Zara's laughter tinkled like broken glass. "I couldn't miss celebrating my best friend's big night," she cooed, directly into Amara's face. A camera flash popped. A blogger at the front of the gallery captured the moment, Rico, the supposed fiancé, entwined with Zara. Rage and disbelief coursed through Amara as whispers rippled through the crowd. "Isn't Zara her best friend? They look so comfortable together." Amara struggled to speak. "Rico, what?" "Amara, calm down," he began, voice oily. "It's not what you think." "Oh really?" She forced a smile. "Then why are you holding hands?" He glanced at Zara, panic flickering. Zara's face fell, then hardened into defiance. "You're overreacting," she snapped. "He's just a friend." But the lens of every smartphone told a different story. The blogger's livestream exploded, #Rico and Zara trended within minutes. Amara's world tilted. She took a breath, head held high. "If you'll excuse me," she said, voice low but steady, pivoting on her heel. She strode away as stifled gasps followed. Rico called after her, "Amara, wait, please." But she was already halfway down the corridor when her heel caught an uneven tile, and she stumbled. A chorus of concern erupted, but Amara shook it off, her lip trembling. She reached the exit, fumbled with her phone, and posted a simple status, "I'm done." Then she walked out into the night, leaving her life, and Rico's pandemonium, behind. At 2:13 a.m. the next morning, the city buzzed with speculation. TV anchors replayed the clip. Friends texted. But Amara's phone stayed silent. By dawn, she had erased her social accounts, emptied her apartment, and vanished without a trace. Rico paced his penthouse living room, the glow of the city skyline beneath him a mocking reminder of his power. His phone vibrated incessantly, emails, texts, DMs, all begging for explanations. But the one text he craved most remained unread, "Where are you?" He checked his email, 37 unopened messages from Amara. He clicked on the first, "Rico, please stop calling me. I need space." The second, "Please let me go." His chest tightened. He deleted them, but the pain lingered like an open wound. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, Amara sat on a wooden bench at Milan's Central Station. The winter air bit at her cheeks, and she rubbed her arms, notebook in her lap. She watched steam curl from espresso cups at a nearby cafe and thought of the life she'd left behind. No ring. No fiancé. No betrayal. Only possibility. She flipped open the notebook, its first page blank. Then, with deliberate calm, she began to sketch a plan, list of needed documents, contacts in Italy, ideas for a beauty brand inspired by her grandmother's recipes. Luca, her unborn son, would be her strength. A porter offered to carry her single suitcase, and she smiled, a small gesture of courtesy that masked the storm inside. "Grazie," she said, in accented Italian. For the first time in weeks, she felt capable of hope. Back in the city, Zara stood on the gallery steps, live on Instagram Live, tears streaking her makeup. I never meant to hurt her, she sobbed. Comments flew, liar. She's lying? Where's Amara? But no answer came. As the viral story swirled, tabloid reporters sniffed out Amara's apartment, empty. Security footage showed her checking out of the building at 10:02 p.m. the night before. Nothing more. In Italy, Amara checked into a modest pensione. The owner, Signora Rossi, eyed her curiously. First time in Milan? Yes, Amara replied. Her voice was measured. I'm here for work. Signora Rossi nodded. You'll love it. The city sparkles in February. Amara unpacked slowly, one suitcase for her clothes, one for her grandmother's wooden mixing bowls and herbs. She placed a small framed photo of her grandmother on the dresser. Then, alone in the room, she pressed her hands to her belly. Luca, she whispered, we're going to be okay. For the next 2 weeks, she laid low, opening a temporary bank account, scouting small laboratories that could produce a signature shea-based cream, and buying a cheap smartphone to avoid detection. Each night, she deleted one more trace of her old life, goodbye messages on social apps, contacts in her phone, all memories tucked into an external hard drive. Meanwhile, back home, Rico's PR team worked overtime, issuing statements of concern and urging the public not to speculate. But the internet had other plans. Memes circulated, conspiracy theories bloomed, and hashtags like #WhereIsAmara trended. All the while, Amara's social media presence was gone, erased, like a ghost leaving no footprints. And in her new world of cobblestone streets and espresso steam, she began to breathe again. On a rainy afternoon in New York, Rico sat at his desk in his high-rise office, crumpling yet another unsent email draft. The subject line read, I'm sorry, please come back, I need you. He hesitated, fingers hovering over the send button. Then he deleted the draft, again. His assistant knocked and slid a folder across the desk. Private investigator report, she said softly. Rico opened it, surveillance photos of Amara in Milan, a list of aliases, evidence of her meetings with cosmetic chemists. His breath caught. He picked up the phone. Call Zara. In Milan, Amara sat at a small wooden table in a cafe off Via Torino, drafting her first business proposal. She wrote in neat cursive, Ancestral Glow Beauty, by Amara Okoye. A cloud of steam rose from her cappuccino as she paused to reflect. The words etched on the page affirmed her transformation. She looked up to see a young courier approaching. He handed her an envelope, crusted with the emblem of her former PR firm. Her heart stuttered. She turned it over, return address, New York City. Back home, Rico watched live updates, each unopened envelope counted as another strike against him. He thought of the warmth of Amara's laugh, the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled, small details he had taken for granted. He felt hollow without her. Amara held the envelope, fingertips trembling. Inside was a thick sheaf of unsent draft emails, printed, emergent from Rico's drafts. The first page, Amara, I can't live without you. The second, please let me explain. The last, if you ever miss me, come home. She exhaled, emotions surging, frustration, pity, old love. But beneath it all lay a fierce calm. She did not need to respond. She did not need to confront his cowardice. Instead, she placed the papers neatly back into the envelope, sealed it, and dropped it into a cafe donation box, anonymously. She watched it disappear, then turned her attention to the page in front of her, a sketch of a new product line featuring shea, baobab, and morina. Her future lay in that page, not in the echoes of a past love. That night, Rico sent one last email, unsent. He stood in the corner of his penthouse, staring at the city lights, whispering into the darkness, "Where are you?" No reply came. Sunlight filtered through plantation shutters in a Tuscan villa as Amara stood barefoot on cool terracotta tiles. She breathed in the scent of lavender from the garden below. This was her sanctuary now, an artist's retreat offered by an Italian entrepreneur she'd met through a mutual friend. She had arrived under her new name, Amara de Luca. She wore linen trousers, loose blouse, her hair coiled into a low bun. No emerald gown, no proposal dreams, only authenticity. She stepped into the open-air kitchen, where olive oil glinted in a copper pot, and began preparing her grandmother's recipe for an infused body butter. Each pinch of dried herbs, each drip of shea butter, was a tribute to her heritage, something no one could ever steal from her. Across the courtyard, a courier delivered an invitation, a private showcase in Paris. It bore Kane Bishop's discreet logo, an intertwined KB. Amara's pulse quickened. She had heard rumors of the reclusive billionaire's interest in ancestral beauty traditions. She smiled, genuine this time, and tapped the invitation into her pocket. That evening, she practiced her pitch in front of a cracked mirror. Her voice was sure, measured. My grandmother taught me that beauty is not just skin deep, it's the story in every ingredient. She paused, visualizing Kane's stoic face. And that story must be honored. She fell asleep with the sun low on the horizon, dreaming of the stage she would command, no longer a heartbroken fiancé, but a founder with a vision. In Paris, at a discreet event hall overlooking the Seine, Kane Bishop observed silently as artisans displayed wares from around the world. He stood apart, tall, dark, dressed in a simple black suit, his eyes hidden behind designer frames. His reputation was of a man who measured risk like a chess master, until Amara stepped onto the platform. She introduced herself as Amara de Luca, weaving tales of Nigerian villages and ancestral kitchens. She passed around small jars of her cream, and the hall fell silent at the first touch, rich, unprocessed fragrance, velvety texture. Kane stepped forward. Their eyes met. No words, only a mutual recognition of purpose. Amara, under her breath, it's an honor. Kane, softly, your grandmother would be proud. Her heart fluttered, not for Rico, but for possibility. She had become someone else by choice, and that someone commanded respect. For years had passed in a flurry of measured decisions. Amara's brand, Ancestral Glow, launched in exclusive boutiques across Europe. She remained a ghost in her hometown, no interviews with tabloids, no social media persona. Her name was whispered in beauty circles, but her face never appeared in glossy magazines. She preferred it that way. In a sunlit penthouse in Milan, she cradled Luca in one arm as she inked her signature on a contract that secured distribution in Asia. Luca, now 3, giggled and reached for the eucalyptus plant on the balcony. She laughed, a full, unguarded sound that Rico had never heard. That afternoon, she video-called Signora Rossi. Mama R, as she affectionately called the pensione owner, beamed. You're a world star now. Amara smiled. World star behind the scenes, she teased. And Luca is my greatest success. As Luca chased bubbles in the bougainvillea, Amara's mind drifted to Jersey Street, to the echo of her own footsteps as she walked away from the gallery. A quiet vengeance had taken root, not in revenge, but in reinvention. Every milestone, CEOs calling, celebrities requesting samples, was a testament to her resolve. That evening, she hosted a private dinner for Kane in her villa, candlelight flickering off hand-painted ceramics, the scent of jasmine drifting through open windows. Luca dozed at her feet. Kane raised a glass of Amarone. To Ancestral Glow. To us, she replied, meeting his gaze. No words about Rico. No need. She had disappeared when she needed to heal. Now, she thrived, engaged to a man who saw her worth, mother to a boy who was her legacy, and founder of a brand built on her own terms. As they clinked glasses, Amara's phone buzzed with a single notification, an invitation to return home, for a charity gala sponsored by Kane's Foundation. She tapped the notification, her finger hovering over accept. For years ago, she had vanished in pain. Now, she would return in power, ring on her finger, her son by her side, a billionaire at her arm, and an unshakable calm radiating from her very presence. __. By twilight, the pale Parisian sky deepened into indigo as Amara stepped onto the terrace of the Palais de Verre. Under a canopy of twinkling fairy lights, tables dressed in pristine white linen bore crystal flutes and petite canapés. The air smelled of night-blooming jasmine, and the distant hum of conversation softened beneath a string quartet's gentle chords. Kane Bishop watched her from across the lawn. Clad in a sharply tailored charcoal suit, no tie, he leaned against the balustrade, hands in his pockets, surveying the scene with measured calm. His reputation as a mysterious billionaire preceded him, founder of Bishop Innovations, rumored to invest only in ventures that combined profit with purpose. Tonight, he had come to observe, but secretly, he'd come to meet her. Amara navigated the crowd with grace, greeting cosmetics editors and lifestyle influencers. But in her mind, only one face mattered. She felt a flutter as she approached Kane, whose gaze met hers without surprise, only appreciation. "Ms. De Luca," he said, voice low enough to draw her aside. The discreet escort cleared a path, and they stood alone on a marble balcony overlooking the Seine. "It's an honor to finally meet you." Amara inclined her head. "The honor is mine, Mr. Bishop. I've admired your work in sustainable ventures." She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the sapphire pendant at her neck catching the light. Kane's eyes flicked to the pendant. "A gift from Milan?" She allowed a small smile. "A reminder of home." He stepped closer. "Your products are unlike anything I've encountered, rich textures, evocative scents. But more importantly, they carry a story." Her heart warmed at his perceptive words. "Ancestral glow is my tribute to my grandmother's wisdom." Behind them, the hum of the party receded as they became cocooned in their own orbit. A server passed, offering champagne. Kane took a flute and offered the other to Amara. She accepted with a nod. "To stories worth telling," Kane toasted, lifting his glass. Amara's eyes met his. "And stories worth sharing." They sipped in unison, the bubbles rising like sparks between them. For a moment, the bustling event felt distant, synthetic gowns and chatter washed away, leaving only two individuals bound by curiosity and respect. Kane hesitated, then asked softly, "May I see more of your work?" "Your formulations." Amara's pulse quickened. "I have samples in my hotel suite. If you're free after the event." He smiled, a slow, authentic curve of lips that reached his eyes. "Then let's retire somewhere quieter." Moments later, they slipped away together. As they walked through the hushed corridors, Amara sensed that this encounter would change everything she'd built so far. The suite was bathed in the muted glow of dusk-filtered lamps. Amara placed a rosewood box on the coffee table and opened it to reveal jars of creams and oils, each labeled with the names of herbs, shea, morina, baobab. Kane observed silently, his attention unwavering. "How did you source these components?" he asked, lifting a jar gently. Amara inhaled the nutty scent. "I partnered with cooperatives in Nigeria. Fair trade, sustainable harvesting, respect for ancestral methods." He nodded, impressed. Transparency is rare in this industry. As she demonstrated the application, massaging a drop between her fingertips, Kane's reserved demeanor softened. His mask of detachment slipped, revealing genuine curiosity. Leaning forward, he asked, "Why did you leave everything behind?" "I read about your disappearance." Amara paused, fingers still. For a moment, the shadows of her past pressed in, the viral betrayal, the pain, but she did not falter. "I needed to find solid ground," she replied, voice steady. "I needed to grow roots somewhere I could control." Kane studied her, as if weighing every word. "And now you're back in control." Her gaze met his defiantly. "More than ever." He set down the jar and reached across the table, his hand stopping just short of hers. "I admire that strength." Amara's breath caught. No pity in his tone, only respect. She withdrew her hand slowly, nodding. "Thank you." A comfortable silence settled between them, punctuated only by the distant traffic below. Finally, Kane spoke. "Amara, I want to invest in your brand. Not just capital, but a partnership. My network, my resources, I believe in what you're building." Her heart fluttered at his words. She had always equated love and value with profit. Had Rico ever seen her value beyond his convenience? But Kane's offer transcended money. It was validation of her vision. She looked down at her sons drawing tape to the minibar, a smiling family under a purple sky. Luca's innocence reminded her of her purpose. She met Kane's gaze again. "I'd like that." He extended his hand, and she took it. In that moment, two worlds converged, her silent empire of ancestral beauty and his kingdom of global enterprise. As they shook on their new alliance, the polished billionaire and the determined founder recognized that neither of them was the same person who had first crossed paths. The mask of solitude that Amara had worn for years finally cracked, revealing brilliance beneath. Santorini's sun-dappled cliffs glowed saffron and rose as Amara stepped onto the deck of Kane's yacht. The Aegean breeze teased her hair as soft Greek guitar played in the background. Kane stood at the bow, dressed in crisp white linen, his silhouette framed by the endless blue. Luca, clad in miniature sailor stripes, clutched her hand, his bright eyes full of wonder. Kane gestured toward a small table set for two, sea salt, sprinkled olives, fresh figs, and flutes of vintage champagne resting on sun-warmed marble. He guided Amara and Luca to their seats. White petals drifted across the wooden planks as the yacht cut through crystalline water. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky in tangerine and violet, Kane rose. Clearing his throat, he caught Amara's gaze. A hush fell over the small gathering of crew and private guests. Even the sea seemed to pause. "Amara," he began, voice rich with sincerity, "from the moment I tasted ancestral glow, I sensed something extraordinary, beyond profit, beyond product." He reached into his jacket pocket and produced a small velvet box. Amara's breath caught, Luca pressed close, curiosity in his gaze. Kane opened the box to reveal a sapphire the color of midnight seas, set in a simple platinum band. "This ring represents more than our partnership," he said softly. "It represents our future, our commitment to each other, to Luca, and to the vision we share." Tears glimmered in Amara's eyes as she covered her mouth. She looked down at Luca, then back at Kane. I don't know what to say." He knelt, the deck creaking beneath him. Luca watched with wide-eyed wonder. "Say you'll let me stand by your side," Kane urged. "As your partner, your family." Amara's voice trembled as she knelt beside him, her hand resting atop his. "Yes," she whispered, 1,000 times, "yes." The yacht erupted in applause as Kane slipped the ring onto her finger. Amara rose, pulling him into a gentle embrace. Luca jumped into their arms, laughter mingling with the gentle lapping of waves. As night descended, lanterns lit the deck in a warm glow. Amara gazed at the ring, a symbol not of a rescue, but of reciprocity. In that moment, she recognized her own worth reflected in Kane's devotion. Later, as the yacht sailed toward the stars, Amara nestled between Kane and Luca, heart swelling with peace. For years ago, she had vanished in heartbreak. Tonight, she had re-emerged, victorious, not through vengeance, but through love earned and partnerships forged. The private jet descended toward the city that once knew Amara as the broken fiancé. Through the tinted window, the skyline shimmered, glass towers, neon billboards, the winding river she once crossed. Kane and Amara stood hand in hand on the tarmac, Luca perched on Kane's shoulders. The media contingent, invited by Kane's foundation, waited beyond the barricades. Flashing lights erupted as cameras captured the family's arrival, the poised founder, the enigmatic billionaire, the child between them. A hush fell as Amara stepped forward, voice steady. "Thank you for welcoming us back." She paused, letting the applause wash over her. "This city shaped me once. Now, I return not as a victim of betrayal, but as a partner in innovation." Reporters pressed forward. "Ms. De Luca, will you address the rumors about your past engagement?" one called. She met his gaze. "My past belongs to me. Today is about building our future, here, in this city I love." Kane guided Luca toward a sleek escort car. "We've arranged a tour of our new tech headquarters," he said softly. "It's time to show you where we'll be working." As the motorcade wound through familiar streets, Amara's chest tightened, not with fear, but anticipation. She recognized the corner where she once posted her "I'm done" message. She remembered the echoes of paparazzi flashes. Now, those same streets celebrated her return. At the gleaming glass building, an inaugural ribbon waited. Local dignitaries gathered, eager to meet the woman who transformed pain into purpose. Kane whispered, "You ready?" Amara inhaled deeply. Luca's small hand squeezed hers. She raised a pair of oversized scissors, smiled at the cameras, and cut the ribbon. The throng erupted in cheers. Inside, walls were lined with interactive displays showcasing technological solutions powered by Ancestral Glow's ingredients, AI-driven sourcing platforms, blockchain-verified supply chains. Amara guided visitors through each exhibit, explaining how ancestral knowledge merged with cutting-edge tech to create ethical beauty products. A reporter approached Kane. "Why bring Ancestral Glow here?" Kane's gaze found Amara's. "Because innovation needs humanity. And Amara reminds us what that means." Amara felt a swell of pride. This city had once broken her heart. Today, it welcomed her brilliance and vision. That evening, the Charity for Children's Futures Gala filled the ornate ballroom of the Grand Meridian Hotel. Crystal chandeliers rained light on tables draped in ivory satin. A string quartet played Debussy as waiters circulated hors d'oeuvres. Amara, in a midnight blue gown that hugged her form, descended the grand staircase with Kane at her side and Luca trailing behind in a miniature tux. Cameras clicked, social media exploded with #QueenAmara and #UnbotheredIcon. At a corner table, Rico nursed a whiskey neat. Zara stood beside him in a scarlet dress, phone in hand, live streaming the arrival. When Amara appeared, Zara's lips parted in a silent gasp. Rico's glass froze midair, his face paled. Amara's gaze flicked to their table. For a heartbeat, time stood still, the man who shattered her world, the friend who betrayed, both rendered powerless by her quiet radiance. She smiled, a small, serene curve of lips, and lifted her glass in a graceful nod. Kane's presence beside her was a shield and a statement. Luca waved at Zara, who turned away, jaw clenched. Rico swallowed hard, clearing his throat, as a reporter approached him. "Rico, would you like to comment on Ms. Okoye's return?" He shook his head, voice husky. No comment." As Amara moved through the crowd, greeting philanthropists, exchanging pleasantries, Rico's gaze followed, haunted. He spotted the sapphire ring on her finger and realized what he had lost, not just a fiancé, but the architect of a legacy that now eclipsed his own accomplishments. Moments later, the gala host tapped a glass to command attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome tonight's honoree, Ms. Amara De Luca, CEO of Ancestral Glow." Applause thundered. Amara took the podium, Luca perched on a stool beside her. She spoke with measured calm. "Thank you for this honor. For years ago, I left this city in search of my own strength. Tonight, I stand here with my son and my partner, ready to give back to the community that shaped me." Her words resonated through the hall, empowerment embodied. Below the podium, Rico watched, throat tight. His world had been shattered in this very city, now, he stood broken by her triumph. No dramatic confrontation, just the echo of applause and the quiet realization that she had moved on, radiantly and unapologetically. As the night closed, Amara descended the podium, greeted by Kane and Luca. Together, they stepped into a future neither of them had expected, but one they would build, hand in hand, where presence spoke louder than any act of revenge. The monthly board meeting at Bishop Innovation's new headquarters buzzed with quiet anticipation. Glass walls framed the city skyline, ivory sofas lined the reception area, and a circular mahogany table dominated the center of the conference room. Amara sat between Kane and Luca, her son perched on a plush, oversized armchair that Kane had insisted be included in every meeting room for future innovators. The directors filed in, murmuring polite greetings. At the far end of the table, Rico slipped in with Zara at his side. Amara caught his eye for a split second, his breath caught as if he'd fallen into icy water. She raised an eyebrow, a single, deliberate signal, calm confidence. He looked away, swallowing. Kane began the meeting with business-like precision. Charts appeared on the holographic display: quarterly growth, new markets, sustainability metrics. Amara followed along, asking pointed questions that revealed both her intimate knowledge of supply chains and her unwavering commitment to ethical sourcing. Luca fidgeted, leaning over to whisper, "Mama, can we get ice cream afterward?" Amara's eyes softened. She nodded at the security detail who discreetly handed Luca a small plush toy. Rico tried to interject with a question about Asian distribution channels, a topic he had prepared for, but Kane steered the conversation back to Amara's insights on community-led cooperatives. The room's attention shifted, heads nodded in agreement as Amara highlighted how local partnerships reduced costs and empowered villages. Rico bristled, cheeks flushing. He realized he was outmatched in every arena that mattered. At one point, the VP of Marketing complimented Amara, "Your narrative around ancestral glow resonates more authentically than any campaign we've seen." A ripple of applause followed. Amara offered a gracious smile, but words remained unnecessary. Her presence spoke volumes. Midway through the meeting, the CFO announced an unexpected partnership opportunity in South America, an area Rico had championed. Kane turned to Amara, "Your thoughts?" She leaned forward. "By integrating indigenous botanical knowledge with our existing framework, we can reduce carbon footprint by 15%, project long-term margins to rise by 8%, and generate goodwill that no marketing budget can buy." Murmurs of approval circled the table. Rico's gaze flicked to Amara, then to Kane, and finally to his own hands folded tensely in front of him. He closed his eyes for a moment, recalling the fire that once burned between them, now extinguished and replaced by steel resolve. When the meeting ended, Amara stood, smoothing the fabric of her skirt. Luca toddled toward her, arms outstretched. Kane swept in to catch the boy, and they exchanged a satisfied look. Directors filed out, offering handshakes and compliments. Kane draped an arm around Amara's shoulders and pressed a gentle kiss to her temple. Rico lingered by the door, Zara at his side. Their eyes met across the glass walls. Zara's attempt to speak, an apology? A plea, died on her lips when Amara lifted a hand in a serene wave. No words, just a look that conveyed both finality and forgiveness. "I am not the person you knew." Rico exhaled, understanding her message perfectly. He stepped back into the hallway's fluorescent light, swallowed his regret, and watched as she walked away, radiant, unbowed, and entirely beyond his reach. Late at night, Zara paced her penthouse living room, the city lights flickering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Her phone glowed with notifications, media alerts, posts about #Queen Amara, and merciless memes mocking her betrayal. Defeated, she sank onto her velvet chaise and tapped to contact, Leo, PI. 2 days later, a discreet man in a tailored blazer arrived at Zara's door. Leo, the private investigator, bore a leather satchel and an air of professional detachment. Zara ushered him into the minimalist drawing room, where a single orchid sat on a glass table. "Find anything yet?" she asked, voice tight. Leo nodded, placing a tablet on her lap. "Everything we dug up on Amara de Luca." He ran a finger across the screen. "She's been living in Milan, operating Ancestral Glow under that name. But the real prize is here." He swiped to a PDF, Luca's birth certificate. Zara gasped. Beneath mother and child, the father field read Rico Mensa. "How?" Zara whispered, eyes wide. Leo tapped to enlarge a scanned copy of the certificate. Filed in Italy under Rico's name, probably to ensure paternity rights. That confirms he's the father, and that Amara was pregnant when she disappeared. Zara's face blanched. She kept his child, and never told him? Leo cleared his throat. She kept her cards close. But this document is explosive. If we leak it. Leak it. Zara's voice was steel. Now. Within hours, Italian tabloids buzzed with the headline, "Betrayed Billionaire's Secret Son." Hashtags like #RicoTheDad and #MomAmara trended across Europe. Social media lit up with speculation. How could he not know? She must have planned this. Across time zones, Rico awoke to a barrage of text messages from friends, family, his legal team. He scrolled the Italian news sites, stomach knotted. The personal had become public, and it cut deeper because the details were irrevocable. Back in Milan, Amara sat in her home office, reviewing expansion plans for Brazil. A knock at the doorframe startled her. Her assistant stood with a tablet in hand. "Ma'am, you might want to see this." On screen, her birth certificate and Luca's side by side, plastered on gossip sites. Comments poured in, some supportive, many salacious. Amara closed her laptop, summoned her composure, and tapped her phone. A single tweet emerged from an ancestral glow. "My son is my strength. Our story will be told on our terms." She looked at Luca, playing on the oriental rug. His laughter filled the room with light. She swallowed the sting of public scrutiny. They held the power now, not tabloids, not hashtags, but her voice, steady, authentic, and unwavering. In New York, Rico trudged into his office, suit unbuttoned, tie askew. He replayed every moment of his engagement, how he had turned away, how he had let her go. Now, he faced the consequences, a son he'd never known, a life he'd abandoned. The weight of regret settled on him like a stone. The next morning, Amara's office hummed with the quiet efficiency of a Fortune 500 boardroom. Wall-to-ceiling windows framed the Tuscan hills, and shelves displayed awards for sustainable entrepreneurship. Amara stood by her desk, reviewing press statements on her tablet, when her receptionist announced, "Mr. Mensah is here to see you." Her heart stuttered at the name she had not spoken in years. She adjusted her blazer and beckoned him in. The door swung open, and Rico strode into the room, gait purposeful, tie loosened, eyes stormy. Zara lingered by the entrance, wide-eyed, but Amara held her gaze on Rico alone. He closed the door behind him without a word. The room's hush deepened, punctuated only by Luca's distant laughter in the playroom next door. Amara folded her hands on the desk, legs crossed. "Good morning, Rico." Rico's jaw tightened. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice broke. "About Luca." Amara's expression remained calm. "I told you once, I needed to go. I needed space to figure things out." He took a half step forward. "You erased me. You vanished." She leaned back, shoulders relaxed. "I didn't vanish from fear. I vanished for peace." His eyes flicked to the certificates framed on the wall, one official birth certificate, one business award. He swallowed hard. "You named our son." "Our son." Amara's gaze softened briefly as Luca's tiny hand waved from the playroom door. Then she turned back to Rico, resolute. "He is my son. He is safe, loved, and thriving." Rico ran a hand through his hair. "I had every right to know." "You lost the right to ask for years ago," Amara interjected, her tone gentle but firm. "You betrayed me publicly. You betrayed my trust. You walked away." Rico's shoulders slumped. "I know I made mistakes." She rose, crossing to the window. "We all do. But your mistakes are not mine to fix." She met his gaze in the reflection of the glass. "I prioritized him, our son, over my anger." He stared at her, eyes glassy. Zara cleared her throat at the doorway. Amara flicked her gaze toward Zara, a quiet acknowledgement. The betrayal had involved her too. Rico looked back to Amara. "Is there any chance?" Amara's eyes softened. "There's always a chance, for growth. But not for us." She offered a small, serene smile. "I wish you well, Rico." "Truly." Rico nodded, tears glinting. He turned, Zara trailing behind him. The door clicked shut, leaving Amara alone. She exhaled, pressing a hand to her heart. Luca's laughter drifted in again, and she allowed herself a moment of relief. She had faced the past, and now she could fully live her future. Within an hour of Rico's departure, someone in Zara's inner circle leaked a clandestine clip of their confrontation, amateur footage shot through the narrow office window. In it, Amara's poised retort, "You lost the right to ask for years ago," echoed like a viral anthem. Social media erupted. TikTok creators turned the line into memes. Instagram Reels mashed the clip with triumphant music. Twitter feeds lit up, hashtag lost the right, hashtag Queen Amara, and hashtag he walked away trended globally. Influencers debated every nuance. "She's the ultimate power move, best clapback of 2025, we stan a CEO who sets boundaries." News outlets scrambled to cover the story. Headlines ranged from ex-fiancé humiliated to woman's calm vengeance. Even business journals weighed in, leadership lessons from Amara's boundaries. Podcasts invited Amara's marketing director to analyze the PR phenomenon. Amara watched the frenzy from her living room, seated on the cream sofa with Luca nestled beside her. Kane appeared at her side with 2 mugs of chamomile tea. He handed her one, she wrapped her hands around its warmth. "You okay?" She nodded, smile gentle. "It's overwhelming, but in a good way." Kane sat next to her, looping an arm around her shoulders. "I've never seen a story captured so quickly. But you handled it perfectly." Amara gazed at the TV screen behind them, which cycled through news tickers. Ancestral Glow CEO's words go viral, Rico's reputation takes a hit, power of poise, how Amara won online. She took a sip of tea. It's not about humiliating him. It's about showing that calm can be more powerful than drama. Luca reached for the remote and pressed mute. Amara laughed and tousled his hair. "Even he thinks it's too loud." Across continents, Rico sat in a dimly lit hotel suite, replaying the clip on loop. The words cut deeper than any flame-throwing tirade could have. He realized that Amara's silence, her absence, had been her greatest weapon, and now her measured words sealed his fate. Meanwhile, Zara's Instagram live descended into chaos. Comments flooded, "Leave her alone. Zara, this is on you." Sponsors began to withdraw endorsements from Zara's lifestyle brand. Her follower count plummeted. In Milan, Amara's phone buzzed incessantly, interview requests, speaking invitations, podcast offers. She responded selectively, "Thank you. I'll consider." Each reply maintained her composed voice. She sat taller, no longer haunted by her past, but amplified by her authenticity. That night, she recorded a short video on Ancestral Glow's official channel. In a softly lit room, she spoke directly to the camera. "Our stories shape us, but they do not define us. Boundaries protect our peace, and silence can speak louder than any accusation. Thank you for standing with me. Let's continue to lift each other up, quietly, powerfully, together." No mention of Rico, no bitterness, just empowerment. The clip amassed millions of views within hours, with comments praising her leadership and grace. As Amara closed her laptop, Kane kissed her temple. "You turned pain into purpose," he murmured. She rested her head against him, proud and unshaken as the internet continued to burn with admiration for the woman who won without shouting. A week after the viral clip, Zara prepared for her live apology. In her makeup room, mirrored walls, vanity lights, and a ring light, she sat on a plush stool, mascara running from tears, voice cracking as she practiced lines. Her PR manager hovered nervously. On camera, Zara's shaky breath filled the frame. I'm so sorry, Amara. I never meant for any of this to happen." It was a moment of weakness. She paused, blinking against the glare of LEDs. I lost my best friend." Live viewer count climbed into the hundreds of thousands. The comment section turned into a battlefield. "Too little, too late, we don't want your tears, where's Luca?" Celebrities weighed in. An A-list actress tweeted, "Redemption needs action, not tears," and a well-known activist posted, "Friendship is loyalty, not betrayal." As Zara struggled to regain composure, a sudden notification pinged on her phone. Her brand's lead sponsor had withdrawn funding. Another email, her social media manager reported an exodus of followers. Her bottom line, the lifestyle line she had built off her influencer bestie image, crashed without warning. Zara's shoulders slumped, and mascara streaks traced rivers down her cheeks. She looked into the mirror, searching for the confident woman she once was. Instead, she saw someone hollowed out by her own missteps. Downstairs in the lobby, Rico waited in tense silence. He watched the live stream on his phone, face drawn. When the apology ended, Zara shut off the camera. She turned to Rico, eyes red. "It's a disaster." He reached for her hand but withdrew it when she flinched. "It's too late," he said quietly. "People believe her. They believe her because she didn't give them drama, just truth." Zara sank onto a velvet couch. "I ruined everything." Rico knelt before her. "We both made mistakes. But perhaps this is our wake-up call." Zara shook her head. "Wake-up call? My career is collapsing." He raised a finger. "You can rebuild. But first, you need to find authenticity. You need to own your part in it, fully, without excuses." Zara's gaze met his. In that moment, she saw the reflection of her own relentless ambition, the same ambition that had blinded Rico, too, to Amara's worth. That night, Zara drafted a new statement on her laptop, no polished attempt at an apology, but a raw, unfiltered account of regret and responsibility. She pressed post with trembling fingers. Meanwhile, Amara, Kane, and Luca dined in the villa's courtyard under lantern light. Amara's phone buzzed with a notification. Zara's post had gone live. She read, "I betrayed a friend. I hurt a woman who showed me nothing but kindness. I'm sorry, Amara. I don't expect forgiveness, only a chance to learn and do better." Amara closed her eyes, then reopened them. She lifted her wineglass toward the moonlit sky. "To growth," she whispered. Kane smiled, raising his own glass. Luca's laughter danced on the warm breeze. And somewhere far away, Zara confronted the consequences of betrayal, wiser, humbler, and on the path toward genuine redemption. Late afternoon light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Kane's minimalist office, casting long, warm shadows across the marble conference table. Amara sat at one end, her posture impeccable, laptop open before her. Luca sat nearby at a child-sized desk, coloring in a drawing of their family. Kane stood by the window, gazing out over the city skyline. The door opened quietly. Rico entered, accompanied by his lawyer, Marcus Tanzi, whose crisp navy suit and earnest expression spoke volumes about the gravity of the meeting. Rico's face was drawn, sleep-deprived lines beneath his eyes and a tension in his shoulders that hadn't been there before. After 3 days of press fallout, he finally mustered the courage to see her. "Amara," he began, voice low. He paused as Marcus closed the door behind them, sealing the room's calm. "Thank you for agreeing to speak with me." Amara closed her laptop and offered a polite nod. "Of course. What did you need?" Marcus cleared his throat. "Mr. Mensa would like to discuss arrangements for Luca. He's prepared a substantial financial package to cover all of your expenses, private schooling, healthcare, legal fees, everything you and Luca might require." Amara's expression remained neutral. She thought of how often she'd built something from scratch, first her brand, then a life for Luca, and how nobody had ever handed her wealth on a silver platter. Rico swallowed. "I want to help, Amara. I realize now how irresponsible I was, leaving you without any means. I want joint custody. I want to be in Luca's life." Amara's gaze softened for the first time. She glanced at Luca, who looked up from his coloring with innocent curiosity. Then she turned back to Rico. "You want to be in his life," she repeated. "Not mine?" Rico shifted, eyes dropping to the carpet. "I know I broke your trust. I know money can't fix everything, but I want to try. Amara took a steady breath. Luca needs stability more than he needs money. He needs consistency. I have a routine for him: school, playdates, weekends with his nanny. If you want involvement, we can discuss visiting schedules. But I won't be bought with a check. Marcus cleared his throat again. There's also the matter of Alpha Technologies, the company. Mr. Mensah is willing to transfer certain shares back to you as a gesture of goodwill. At the mention of Alpha, Rico's brow shot up. It was the startup he'd pulled her into years ago, the very venture where everything had fallen apart. Amara's hand tightened around her mug of chamomile tea. I appreciate the gesture, she said, voice measured. But my shares are invested in Ancestral Glow's supply chain logistics, not in Alpha. And frankly, I don't want to maintain ties to banks that once refused me a loan. Rico rose and approached the table, leaning forward. Please, Amara. I know I have no right, but I'm asking you as Luca's father. Give me a chance. Amara looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in years. She saw genuine remorse, yes, but also a man still learning what accountability meant. Here's my chance, she said, standing. Luca scooted his chair back and ran to her side, looping his arms around her leg. She knelt, hugging him before looking back at Rico. Be there for him, consistently and without conditions. I'll draft a visitation schedule. Beyond that, I wish you well. Rico nodded slowly, eyes glistening. He extended a hand. Amara accepted it, keeping her grip firm, not soft. As he left the room, Marcus trailing behind, Kane stepped forward and swept them both into a warm embrace, first Luca, then Amara. She rested her head on Kane's shoulder, grateful she had stood her ground. The offer had been tempting, but she needed nothing from Rico except the chance to be a father to Luca. The Global Innovation Summit buzzed with the low hum of networking entrepreneurs, tech journalists, and venture capitalists. In the heart of the conference hall, a massive stage showcased holographic demos of eco-friendly startups. Ground-level booths lined the perimeter, each vying for attention with sleek displays and interactive VR stations. Amara stood beside Kane at their Axiom Ventures booth, introducing delegates to Ancestral Glow's new blockchain-verified sourcing platform, a marriage of cutting-edge technology and ancestral wisdom. Luca played with a demo headset at a kid-friendly corner, supervised by a staff member. Suddenly, a ripple of recognition passed through the crowd. Rico appeared, flanked by a contingent of Alpha Technologies representatives. He was back in his element, sharp suit, confident stride, but the slight tremor in his jaw betrayed his nerves. Kane and Amara exchanged a glance. When Rico caught their eyes, he approached, forcing a smile. Kane. Amara. Kane extended his hand. Rico. I wasn't expecting to see you here. Rico's smile faltered. I heard about your platform, impressive work. He shifted, nodding to his entourage. The atmosphere grew electric as onlookers sensed a potential showdown. Without warning, Rico continued, It's interesting, you speak of community empowerment, but your margins are nearly triple industry average. Are you sure your cooperatives aren't being squeezed? Amara's lips curved into a calm half-smile. We pay 30% above market rates. Our margins reflect efficiency gained through technology, something Alpha has yet to implement. Rico's expression soured. Efficiency at what cost? You market a narrative, but I've seen factories less transparent than you claim. Kane stepped between them, voice cool. Rico, are you challenging our integrity or just looking to deflect? He lowered his voice so only Rico could hear. We welcome healthy competition. But personal jabs belong on social media, not in real boardrooms. Rico's cheeks flushed. He turned to the assembled crowd, now 90 people deep. I'm merely pointing out. Amara raised a hand. Let's be constructive. If you have evidence, share it. Otherwise, we've both got presentations to deliver. A cluster of journalists, sensing drama, trained cameras on the trio. One shouted, "Is there bad blood here?" Another yelled, "Is Alpha suing ancestral glow?" Rico swallowed. His entourage shifted uncomfortably. He straightened. "No lawsuit," he said curtly. "Just friendly advice." With that, he strode away, Alpha's logo on the back of his jacket gleaming under the summit lights. Kane exhaled, running a hand through his hair. Amara placed a hand on Kane's arm. "Thank you." He nodded. "You handled that perfectly." A reporter approached, microphone extended toward Amara. "Ms. DeLuca, can you comment on Mr. Mensa's allegations?" Amara smiled warmly. "We compete on transparency and innovation. That's the only measure I need." She turned to the camera. "Let's get back to empowering communities." The reporter thanked her. Kane squeezed her hand, pride clear in his eyes. Amara glanced toward Luca, who was waving excitedly. The camera shifted focus to the playful tableau, mother, son, and partner, united, unshaken, and ready to lead. Under the soft glow of studio lights, Amara sat comfortably in a modern armchair, a simple backdrop behind her reading Empowerment Media Live. Across from her, the interviewer, Nadia Chen, adjusted her notepad. Luca sat on a matching chair to Amara's left, fidgeting with a plush toy. Nadia smiled. "Thank you for joining us, Ms. DeLuca. Your story has resonated worldwide." Amara returned the smile. "Thank you for having me, Nadia." Nadia leaned forward. "Let's start at the beginning, your disappearance 4 years ago. What compelled you to walk away from everything?" Amara took a steady breath. "I realized that my identity had become defined by others, a betrayed fiancé, a viral headline, a face on tabloid covers. I needed to reclaim my narrative on my own terms." Nadia nodded. "And during that time, you built Ancestral Glow into a global phenomenon. How did you balance grief and ambition?" Amara glanced at Luca playing with his toy, then back to Nadia. "I channeled my pain into purpose. Every decision was about creating value, for my son, for the communities we work with, for future generations." A clip played on the studio monitor, Amara mixing shea butter with baobab oil in a Tuscan kitchen, then touring farms in Nigeria, smiling with local farmers. Applause rose from the live studio audience. Nadia continued, "You've been called the voice of grace under fire. Was there ever a moment you doubted yourself?" Amara's eyes glistened. "Of course. I cried at 3 a.m. more times than I can count. But I learned that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's authenticity." Nadia smiled. "Speaking of authenticity, your recent video interview clip sparked #QueenAmara and inspired millions. What advice do you have for people facing betrayal or hardship?" Amara paused thoughtfully. "Set boundaries. Protect your peace. Then, heal. Your comeback isn't about revenge. It's about growth." Luca hopped off his chair and climbed into Amara's lap. She tousled his hair, beaming. Nadia gestured to him. "And your son, Luca, how has fatherhood transformed your life?" Amara hugged him close. "He taught me about unconditional love and resilience. He's my greatest teacher." The audience erupted in applause. Nadia concluded, "Thank you, Amara. Your story is a testament to the power of presence over revenge." Amara stood, lifting Luca in her arms. As they walked off stage, murmurs of incredible and inspirational followed. Outside the studio, the video was already trending, Amara de Luca's exclusive interview, full transcript, betrayal to billionaire bride, mompreneur's message of empowerment. Backstage, Kane met them with open arms. "You were amazing." Amara smiled, handing Luca to him. "Thanks. It feels good to finally tell my truth." Kane nodded. "Your voice is changing the world." Amara looked at Luca, at Kane, and then back at the blank studio wall, imagining the millions watching. She had vanished to protect her heart, and now her words protected and empowered hearts worldwide. Autumn leaves drifted down the boulevard as Amara, Kane, and Luca strolled through the city's historic district. Cafes spilled onto sidewalks, and the clinking of cups mingled with laughter. It was here, on these very streets, where Amara had last walked in tears, clutching her suitcase. They paused at a busy intersection, and Amara's gaze shifted to a towering digital billboard above a luxury boutique. There, in high-definition glory, flashed a photograph of her and Luca, smiling, under the tagline, "Ancestral Glow, Strength in Every Generation." Below it ran, "Join our Global Empowerment Summit, November 20th. Amara's breath caught. Kane wrapped an arm around her waist. Luca pointed at the screen, squealing with delight. "Mama!" Amara reached out, touching the billboard's image as if she could feel its warmth. Memories flooded back, betrayal, disappearance, nights of doubt. Yet here she stood, no longer invisible, but celebrated. A passerby recognized her and approached shyly. "Ms. De Luca? Can I please get a selfie?" Amara smiled warmly. "Of course." She knelt to Luca's height, they posed together, and she tapped the photo, sending it instantly to the fan's phone. They continued walking, and more people waved, called out congratulations, praised the brand. One elderly man tipped his hat and said, "You've given us hope." Amara's eyes misted. "Thank you," she whispered. They entered a quaint patisserie. While Kane and Luca ordered pastries, Amara found herself drawn to the counter's display of vintage postcards. One, in particular, caught her eye, a sepia-toned image of her old neighborhood, the gallery where it all began. She purchased it and slipped it into her bag. Outside, Kane draped his coat around her shoulders. "Come on," he said, "let's head to the summit site." At the historic Opera House where the Global Empowerment Summit would be held, volunteers set up chairs and registration desks. Amara signed in behind a velvet rope, clipboard in hand. As she stepped onto the crimson carpet, a volunteer handed her a program. On the welcome back page was a photo of young Amara, her original viral gallery image, juxtaposed with her present, radiant self. A hush fell as the guest of honor arrived. Amara addressed the auditorium, "Thank you for inviting me to return, to share not just a product, but a journey." She held up the postcard. "This reminds me where I started. For years ago, I left these streets broken. Today, I return whole." Applause thundered. As she spoke about ancestral wisdom, innovation, and empowerment, she saw Rico and Zara in the front row, both seated quietly, eyes fixed on her. No anger, only respect. They had witnessed her transformation. After the summit, Amara stepped into a side corridor where the breeze carried the scent of autumn. She unfolded the postcard and traced the skyline of her past life. Then she tucked it into her notebook, a reminder of her full circle. Dawn broke over the same street where Amara's journey had begun. The corner cafe, once the site of whispered rumors, now served her signature turmeric spice latte, named the Queen's Blend. Patrons lined up behind a chalkboard reading, "Rise and radiate with ancestral glow." Amara stepped onto the sidewalk, Luca bundled in her arms, Kane by her side. A street musician played a gentle melody on the violin, notes drifting through the crisp morning air. As she passed the gallery facade, now an art collective run by community artists, she paused, placing her hand against the cool glass. Inside, a new mural depicted a phoenix rising, framed by Nigerian patterns and Parisian rooftops. It was a tribute to her metamorphosis. She smiled. No revenge had been exacted, only transformation. A group of young women emerged from the collective, each holding a copy of her memoir, Presence Over Vengeance. One said shyly, "Thank you for your story. It gave us courage." Amara knelt to their level. "You already have the strength. I only showed you the way." Luca tugged at her scarf. She scooped him up and continued down the street. Shop windows displayed headlines, "Ancestral Glow launches new scholarship fund, Amara De Luca, global changemaker, a billionaire's bride who built an empire on grace." She passed the exact spot where reporters had once trampled her doorstep. Now, construction crews were renovating the lot into a community garden, ancestral grove, funded by her foundation. A small plaque read, "In honor of resilience, planted by those who rise." Amara knelt to press a hand against the plaque, Luca beside her. She closed her eyes, listening to the soft rustle of leaves. She whispered, "We did it." A soft voice interrupted, "Amara?" She opened her eyes to see a young girl clutching a small box of ancestral glow cream. "May I have your autograph?" Amara smiled, taking the cream and the pen. She signed the box, "To Jasmine, shine on." Behind her, Kane lifted Luca onto his shoulders and whispered, "You radiate everywhere you go." Amara stood, slipping her hand into Kane's. She faced the rising sun, casting a warm glow over the street. No thoughts of revenge lingered, only gratitude for every step, every heartbreak, every triumph. A gentle breeze carried petals from a nearby jacaranda tree, scattering purple blossoms at her feet. She turned to Luca and whispered, "This is our home, our victory." Together, they walked toward the future, no longer defined by betrayal, but illuminated by radiance. The end.